Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you my wish list for the 2024 December balance data slate, MFM, whatever. I was going to make today's video an explanation as to, I don't know, beating the Gene Stealer, Brood Lord, hater allegations and just explaining what I mean by that. But, uh, a lot of the video, well, it's done. Maybe I'll make that like a deleted scenes video, whatever. But the purpose of the video was just to highlight that I want at the core for them to be better balanced. And with that coming up, and some people have kind of speculated it might be sooner than later. I thought it was late December, but I've seen a couple of people be like, no, it's probably going to be early. So I want to make this video quickly, I guess, to get that out there as a last, like, Hail Mary. If there's a GW employee watching this really quickly, TLDR, infantry costs too much for what they do, backslash kill. Other things should not cost more than what they replaced, or Primarch level. Like, there's that. So, that's the TLDR, but without further ado, let's get into all of the specifics. First, of course, Broodlord, Gene Stealers. They cost too much for what they do. 80 and 75 for 5, 150 for 10. First off, I don't like when your leader costs more than just having more of the MSU and doesn't provide that much. Um, you give death wounds and -1 to hit at the start of fight phase and engagement. You also get Scouts 8 on these bad boys, and you also get +1 strength technically because you are attaching a Synapse character to non-Synapse units. But with that, let's first think about why I would need dev wounds. I'm not throwing them into anything that really needs the dev wounds. It's nice that I can make it so that the probably infantry I'm throwing them in don't get a save, but how often am I throwing this into something that I can benefit from that? Just to compare them to the Patriarch, and they're a pure strain Gene Stealers in GSC. They get Deep Strike, Infiltrate, Innate Advance and Charge, and because they're GSC, once more besides just the Deep Strike, they have a chance to come the fuck back for 5 points less. The Patriarch is 75, the Broodlord is 80. And you go, yeah, but they're a horde army. That's like their thing. We're the fucking people that made them a horde. This makes no sense that ours costs more and does less. We get scouts, we get +1 strength, we get rerolls. They get the same death wounds, they get to come back, infiltrate, advance, and charge, deep strike. And then the Patriarch has a 6-inch that becomes a 12-inch, if I remember correctly, fire off for battle shock test. Something that we like over here in Tyranids. So it shouldn't cost this much. And going further to why, at most, right, you're spending 230 points, and you're not killing 230 points worth with this package. You're not. You don't get to survive to the next fight. All of our infantry has to get up the board. We have 1 transport, and I'll get to that too. You don't get to hop into a Rhino, a truck, a Sagittar, and get up the board, and then finally beat something's ass. No. You have to get there on your own 2 to 17 legs, and then try to kill it. And for whatever it is, I don't need to do that for 230 points. Trying to kill maybe, let's say, a squad of Guardian Defenders or like Space Marines, we're looking at shit like T3, T4. My Broodlord can get up to strength 7, but what T7 target am I realistically throwing this into? And then how much of that target will I kill? Even if we go to something like Terminators and everybody else's army, a Broodlord and Pack of Gene Stealers does not kill Terminators. It doesn't. And then you go to, even if they do clear the MSU of it, right? That's not my points equivalency. I've spent 230 points to maybe kill 190? Like that's not there. We just don't have it here. So these need to come down before I dwell too far and to something to maybe both of them going to like this coming to 70 and this going to 70 as well. I would like this to be 65 just like the Wing Tyranid Prime and maybe 70 here because it makes no sense that I'm throwing these into targets that just I'm not making my points back. I just have no reason to do so. And I'll just keep going because, for further things. Hive Tyrant. Um, it is kind of just a feels bad that this is pretty much a must take in most Tyranid lists. Um, just to feel like you can operate, because we don't have a lot of tools, right? We don't have a lot of tools, so we do have to make sure that we can use the few tools we do have as easily as possible. So for 10 up, T10, 2 up, 4 up, invuln, 10 wound model that makes my army run, spending 235 points immediately feels bad. And I think as we're realizing, I don't know if I need Assault and Lethal all that bad. Especially with the way some of our lists are looking. We don't. That part still hasn't been beneficial. Assault was already just not good. Lethals is okay. I would like to see this become maybe a breakdown of choose sustains, lethal, or assault. Maybe. Or keep onslaught as assault and then you choose between lethals or sustain. Something like that. But that's all to say that 235 points, unfortunately, we're going to keep doing it. But if they could come down to like 220 or something, that would feel a lot better with list building. But again, that's a more radical one that I know people will be angry at me for suggesting. Then the Parasite of Morri. Why the fuck is this 80 points? This easily 60 is another lictor. Uh, but it's a side grade to a lictor. It doesn't have fights first, and it doesn't have infiltrate. Instead, it has deep strike and synapse, and can possibly give you Ripper Swarms. Probably won't happen. The fight phase shenanigan is cool, but this thing isn't 80 points worth. Just Parasite of Morri should come down. I can't say it needs to, but you know, even if it was 60 and we did replace the Lictor with it, how bad would that be? The Lictor at least has some bite to the fight. Yeah, there's a battle shock test, but it doesn't say become battle shocked, right? Like they can still just pass the test and whoop your ass if they go into it. So Parasite of Morri, this is an easy 60 pointer, if not 55, right? Swarmlord, going back to the same discussion as to Hive Tyrant, and if you're wondering why that's like out of order, just real quick went down the list and whatever I wanted to touch on, that's how we did it. But yeah, Swarmlord, the Lord of Deceit aura is cool, but don't I don't love it. And again, for the body that this is on, and the ranged weapon profile and the melee weapon profile, 240 points for this is not great. Like, compare this to Emitech, right? Yeah, it's tankier than Emitech. But like ranged weapons, better on Emitech. Melee weapons, you have other ways to actually like just make it better. We don't have too many things. You go, yeah, that 8 uh attacks that are strength 10 because of synapse, but holy shit, it's only 8 attacks. Like, where's my strike and sweep profile that other mega epic heroes get? Like, this is our Swarm Lord. Like, this, where's my Avatar of Cain like stats out of the Swarm Lord? So for 240 points, it just doesn't feel 240 points ish. And that's why you go like, oh man, I either take Swarm Lord or Hive Tyrant because it's hard to justify both of those points for what you're getting out of it. So very unique scenarios can give you that if you want to run Tyrant Guard spam, but at this point I'm convinced maybe you just choose Hive Tyrant or Swarm Lord and then uh double down on Neurotyrants for 100 points less. But hey, neither here nor there, just mostly this I would like to come down. Could understand if it doesn't happen, I guess, but it's hard to justify. Gargoyles. Hot take. I think they can be reduced again. Um, this is another of I could see if they just don't. 85 points. Some of us are still paying for it. Gargoyle Jail kind of was mean. And they do want to break up the jail style list, so that's why um Taraxi got hit. You got Thunderwolf, Cav getting hit. They don't want jails to happen, and I can understand that. So I just think to make Vanguard Onslaught feel better, Gargoyles should come down again. Not necessarily like they have to come down by much. Maybe 80 is the sweet spot because did we try 75 or was it 70? Can't remember right now. But it's a lot for still just deep striking battle line. That is a couple of bodies that people do have to worry about, and they do get to shoot and scoot. But at the current cost, I would like them to be in more list again. But we have Hormigon, so I will settle if you just don't as well. Tyrannocyte, our only non-Forge World transport. Yeah. 105 points for a transport capacity of 20 Tyranids infantry models or 1 Tyranid monster model with a wound characteristic of 12 or less. Each infantry model with a wounds characteristic of more than 1 takes up the space of 3. Yeah, so basically this is, do you want to spend 105 points just to dump a squad of Termagants somewhere? No. No, I don't. Because it just isn't, it doesn't hit. There's no reason to do this. Like, whatsoever, most of the time. What monster am I throwing in this? I made a funny haha video as a thing you could do with the Sporocyst, but for fuck's sake, this cost does not give me why I would even use it for anything, right? Like the whole shebang is, oh, the Tyranids are coming, and here comes the Tyrannocytes. Fuck, they're dropping shit everywhere, right? But like, I have no reason to take this thing. I would love for my only transport, non-Forge World, um, my only dedicated transport, as most people do, to be dedicated transport price. Other people shit drop pod. I can't remember right now. Last I checked, it was like what 85 or 90 or some shit like that. Trucks are 65. Sagittars are around that point. Rhinos are what 85 to 90, depending on who you're asking. 95. Like, this is a drop pod and has high restrictions. Like, most of this, if you don't want to reword this to say like an infantry squad unit or one Tyranid monster and fuck this characteristic part, it's not worth 105, and I would like to put the egg on the table. It's a key part to the Tyranid invasion, and none of us are bringing it for our Tyranid invasion. So, Tyrannocyte, I would like to see it be usable. Carnifexes, hot take. I know you just dropped them to 115, then you bumped up old One Eye to kind of compensate. I think you didn't need to fucking do that. If we're being honest, right? 115 points. I was thinking about how, well, first off, they still hit on fours, right? Hit on fours, and they are only usable with Old One Eye. And it isn't great that you have a unit that is only usable with its 150 point leader. I would like to have a reason to maybe make the argument of an oops, all Carnifexes with actual Carnifexes and not just me using the Screamer Killer to back it up, right? And we'll get to the Screamer Killer too, but maybe I think this is time to pull the plug on him and drop it to like an even 100 and bring Old One Eye down again. I would like to see Old One Eye and the Carnifexes be useful. We saw them in the meta for quite some time, but again, that was more of a out of necessity versus out of want. So I would like a want now that the necessity isn't necessarily there anymore. So I would like to bring these more. Go over to Hive Guard. Now, apparently, Hive Guard might be the wave. More or less. I kid. But apparently, JP over at 6 Plus Plus Gaming was able to make them work somehow, some way. So you're kind of confounding my argument here, but I will say 200 points for these 6 models, typically not worth it. You haven't seen them on the table because this volume of shots mixed with this AP and this ballistic scale, not worth it except for very niche cases. Apparently they can be an answer to one thing. I won't give that away. Go check out the 6 Plus Plus gaming stream. That just passed. You'll find it. Just type in Hive Guard. And trust me, you will find what I'm talking about. But for this, it's like in what world do I want to spend 100 points for these 3 models to do what? Right? Like, I want consistent value out of these things, and I know some of my videos you go, well, you don't even talk about, like, the most consistent of values, and that's the thing. I want you to have a reason to play with your toys, but to the Hive Guard point, give me a reason. Drop these bad bitches down to, like, 80-ish, 85. Will Hive Guard spam happen? Maybe. Are they still paying for their sins of previous editions? Probably. But right now, they aren't justifiable for most cases. But I would like the Hive Guard to guard the Hive. Norn Simulator, 290 points. 290 points. You still have been reluctant to drop this thing down, and I don't know why. You're dropping Primarchs down. Okay? Mortarion is 10 points more than the Norn Simulator. Well, that's because Mortarion's an epic hero, so you can only bring one. I am not. This thing, unless I'm being funny, does not realistically give me a reason to run more than one at a time. 290 points. It's T11. A lot of our other stuff is T11. Comments have told me that this was supposed to replace the Hierodule. I made the argument that you probably should have let this be characters. And somebody was like, hey, they said that was for balance reasons. And I call bullshit. This is a Turvagon stat line. With the bonus of you might punch something heavy if you can get there. And you have a 5 of Feel No Pain if you stand still, which means you probably aren't punching the thing that you got there, unless the opponent also throws. And then, like, if you choose the rerolls, so you can do more damage, how are you getting there without being a character to take the enhancements for extra bulk and most detachments for 290 points? Again, Turvy is okay. Because that's 175 points. I can put on things like Adaptive Biology or Synaptic Control, while having the benefit of some of those other things like Reinforced Hive Node. I can do that with Turvy. I can't do that with the Norn Assimilator. My Tyrannifex is 100 points less, doesn't have to get into close combat to knock out the tanks, and it's T12 and has a blank. Right? I have to get this thing to a place for T11 to upsave. No invuln. For 290 points. Again, Morty is 300 now. Gilliman is like 280 something, and like same with the Lion, somewhere around there. The point is, these are not Primarchs. I like them from an aesthetics point of view, but holy, it does get hard to say, like, well, maybe if we do a funky little thing here, I would like to do my funky little thing a little bit more often. The Norn Assimilator is still 290 points. It is supposed to be the offensive one, but it has the same amount of melee attacks and less ranged attacks than the Norn Emissary. Yeah, it hits quote-unquote harder in melee, but damn! Can we at least reverse that one so that my heavy hitting thing is the 6 attacks and then the monstrous scything talons are the 4? Like, I want to love this thing before the edition runs out. Drop this to 2. I'll say 250. But like I'll compromise for like 270 or some shit. Like fuck. 290. And then we go to the Norn Emissary. 275. We bring it because we really want to try to make it work, but at the same time, again, if there's an answer to a Norn Emissary, that is 275 points just gone for, again, not a Primarch. They don't give out. They have a singular purpose, right? Singular purpose. We have a little flavor here, right? A little oopsie daisy there. But they're still T11, non-characters. Oh, and before I forget about the Norn Assimilator, look, you've given the Norn Emissary Psyker, which is only a downside in this edition, because again, you didn't make it a character, so it can't take something like Power of the Hive Mind and Synaptic Nexus. No, can't do that. Psyker is only a negative, but to that extent, on the Norn Assimilator, you didn't give him a funky little keyword to keep the flavor going as a difference between the two. I've proposed Vanguard Invader. People call me crazy and be like, why would that do that? Well, first off, the Vanguard Invaders are all about killing shit, as well as invading vanguardedly. I get that part. But the same way people tell me, well, they said that it wasn't a character, so that should make it fine, right? They also said that these were assassins. And the lore, they are assassins. So, if you don't want to make both of them the Vanguard Invader, at least make the Norn Assimilator Vanguard Invader so I can give it survivability and another detachment. I would like to make it so that I have a reason to put this into at least one detachment for real. I don't give a fuck that it has Assimilator in its name and there's Assimilation Swarm. That doesn't make fucking sense. But at the same time, fuck, make it do something. Please? So yeah, I'm still tossing that, like, if you're not going to give him character, give this one at least Vanguard Invader. Then I can spend a CP, I can get my advance and charge on the thing that clearly wants to charge. Right, the melee combatant, I want to give more help. And you go, well, yeah, you can still take it in, like, Synaptic Nexus, because then you get minus 1 AP and can give it an invulnerable save. Sure. Sure. But fuck. I still don't have a reason to take that for 290 there. Vanguard Onslaught has the issue of actually hitting things that are not just tiny little creatures. Can I at least have one thing that does it within the detachment? Norn Simulator. But back to the Norn Emissary. 275 points. It stands on a point. It's tanky. Psyker keyword is a downside. I would just like a slight price one on this one. Just like 270, 265. Right? It doesn't need to come down as much as drastically as I feel the Norn Simulator does. But again, both to these points, I would be okay with their prices if you made them characters. If they were characters, I wouldn't give a fuck about a lot of this. Like if we're talking Catan is level prices. Yeah, they can't take anything as characters though, but they also get half damage. They also get to regenerate. Yeah, we get objective control, but they also have weapons that fucking hurt. They're slow. They have ways to make that not happen in things like Hypercrypt Legion. They can use stratagems to fire back in like Awakened Dynasty. There's other play for them. Especially once again, did I say that they can half damage? Avatar Arcane is one toughness higher, reduce damage. Wraith Knight, twice the price. Just saying, while I'm talking about big things, reduce damage. And then on the Avatar Arcane, it has a way to get -1 to wound with the Farseer. Take these either I will say, Norn Emissary, if you made it T12, I will concede on the character point as well. So if you don't want to make them characters, give my buddy Vanguard Invader and make the Norn Emissary T12. Then I'll concede on both points and the character keyword. But if that's not the case, they need to drop in points. Because for them to be what they are is absolutely ridiculous. And for what they replace. Like, what is our other quote unquote big monster to quote unquote do damage like they should have been? They don't hit enough for what we're talking about. I am scared to go versus Morty in combat and Magnus in combat. The Lion and Gilliman in combat, right? If you're not going to make them the best shooting platforms, like especially this is 2d6, I can roll Snake Eyes. Make this maybe d6 plus 6. They just I want to I want to be able to justify the Norns more often than me just saying, "Hey guys, I promise there's some play there. It's a lot, I know." But like that comes from me liking the model more than anything. So, Norns, I'll get off of that. Toxicrane, I have a separate video proposing what I think would fix it. Um, but if you don't want to do that and you just want to go the lazy route, 150 points, please drop this to like 115. Like, just make a Carnifex price at that point so it doesn't feel as bad when I lose this fucking model because it's getting shot from everywhere. It only targets infantry. And, again, we're Tyranids. We don't really struggle on the infantry part. That's not our thing. So, just, you know, it has no keywords worth a damn. Monster is okay to have, but in Crusher Stampede, again, I don't need this thing, really. I like the potential synergies with just doing damage, going in there, um, sudden impacting, well, sorry, movement phase, mortal wounds, sudden impacting, mortal wounds, uh, get killed, auto explode, mortal wounds. Like, I like the potential synergy there, but give me the points to back that up. So, drop this damn thing down. Like a lot. Why is it 150? It has no good reason to be 150. And I guess just to make it easier so that you don't have to go find that video if there's a random GW employee watching this, I say give it Bellacore rules, into which you can make it so outside of 18 inches, that and things around it don't get hurt because it's like a giant venom throat. That's my go-to. We've had other suggestions down there about Lone Up Light, to which while you're next to like in synapse range, it does some other things. A couple of ideas are on that video. I can't remember all of them off the top of my head right now while I'm making this one, but mine is Bellicor. We have the Ghost Kill. We have um, all the Primarchs that get Lone Op Light next to shit. So like, there's kind of no reason to be like, well, I don't want to make a monster not get hit. Toxic Rain, come on now. We know the problem is it can get shot from anywhere on the fucking board, and it's hard to maneuver throughout the board. Now those rules did help, so that you just got to worry about the base part, but it didn't stop it from getting shot. Trigon. This one's a hopeful one. I like the Trigon. I'm not saying that it's overcosted. I just would like to see the cost come down a bit. I think that 160, 165 is fair. 170 is okay. Um, the Moloch is 145, but now that they both finally have Vanguard and Vader, they kind of serve drastically different purposes. Um, Oddly enough, but to that extent, I feel like they should be around the same cost of one another. They have the same wound profile and they just serve different points. One is for clearing quote unquote infantry and deep striking at 3. The other one is for, sorry, heavy infantry, elite infantry, and deep striking at 3. The other one is for light infantry and doing mortal wounds and possibly getting battle shock tests. There's more utility on the Moloch, and the damage potential on the Trigon is higher, but it doesn't often get to do that um, in the way that you would want it to. So just a little points reduction on Trigon. I would I would enjoy that. I would like it to not be the same cost as the Maliceptor, because then you get into like, well, instead of a second Trigon, I should probably toss in a Maliceptor. So I just want a cutback on that slightly. Tyranid warriors with melee bioweapons. This is because at no point would you be trying to realistically take this as only 3 models, right? Like, let's be real. 3 models, rerolling ones, twin length, and six attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 6 because they're synapse, AP 2, damage 1 for T5, 4 up save, 3 wounds a pop. Yeah, we're not necessarily getting 1, 2 our delivery, because once again they have to go up the board, right? They have a 6-inch move. They're not the speediest things. So if you wanted to make the melee warriors better, so that it doesn't feel bad that I spent 215 points to try to kill a 180 point unit, I'm not saying they have to come down in the crazier prices, but I would like if they had maybe an 8-inch move or something. Maybe they get an 8-inch move with the Wing Tyranid Prime attached, something like that. They can't get into the mix consistently without taking a lot of damage on the way there. And then, even in Vanguard and Onslaught, you give them advance and charge, they are still movement 6. Like, they are tied for speed with Termagants. The Hormagaunts are faster than them, as they should be with their like little raptor bodies. But I want my melee to be able to get to melee outside of one detachment, and a detachment that barely helps them out. Um, so yeah, that's barely realistically helps them out. I know people get upset when I say that, but I've already gone in depth as to, yeah, you can put them in there, but they just really aren't that good in there. If you really look, they have better options in almost everywhere else. So yeah, and then we go to the ranged bio weapons Tyranid warriors. The rule is eligible to shoot and declare a charge in a turn in which it fell back. I would like if it just had straight up assault and maybe fall back and shoot, right? Like something same profile as the melee warriors, but you just have no reason to take these things. Why are we shooting on 4s? At least the melee warriors get to hit on 3s. Make these 3s. if they're quote unquote a little bit like less expensive than Carnifexes, and Carnifexes you're like, alright, those are the big guns, they're kind of hard to take down. I don't give a fuck what you make these things as if I'm having to hit on fours and I don't get rerolls. Like, give them rerolls on their shots if that's the case, right? Old One Eye gives the Carnifexes rerolls, and again, that's the only reason I'm taking the Carnifexes, to substitute the hitting on fours. None of our codex gives you +1 to hit for range, right? Right. We get +1 to hit for melee. I mean, I guess technically you can get +1 to hit for the Zoes by the Neuro Tyrant, and if you are a monster in Crusher Stampede, but outside of that, how am I? Okay, I guess you could argue that you can use Surprise Assault and Vanguard Onslaught by attaching a Winged Tyranid Prime. I don't want to have to use a CP for this bullshit to go from 4 to 3. Like, I'd go from 3 to 2, but make their ballistic skill better. It doesn't care how cheap you make them, unfortunately, at this point in the edition. I have no reason to bring these things when they're hitting on 4s. So, yeah, make that hitting on 3s at the least. And then, I guess this rule is okay. Shoot and charge is fine. Technically, in Vanguard Onslaught, they could now advance and charge or fall back, shoot and charge, either of those options. But it's not worth it so far. Not for this. Tyrant Guard. Another case of we've made it work, but another case of that's Maliceptor points. And not to say that the Maliceptor needs to be nerfed, as we see, we are not taking the Maliceptor as often anymore. But 170 points for the justifiable amount of Tyrant Guard. I don't know. Sure, you can put on 3 to make a Hive Tyrant or a Swarm Lord, or a Neuro Tyrant, I guess, for that extent. Infantry and Vanguard Onslaught, and get an uppy downy, but that's a lot for quite a fucking little. Tyrant Guard have a decent wound profile for what they do. I would just like to see them come down a little bit. Again, I shouldn't be paying Maliceptor price for not Maliceptor strength or durability shots, anything. Like, they are quote unquote better in melee by volume of attacks, but they also don't hit shit. They are literally just a Blade of Runes for 85 points for 3. So maybe 80, 75, something like that. And then finally we come to Zoe's. Again, our infantry cost a lot for a little. You see Zoe sometimes come up in list, and there were times where we ran 18 Zoes. And to which that was like, well, yeah, if you put them at 70 and then 140, that's justifiable. Then we went all the way to the other fucking end with 110, and it goes, I'm not paying 220 points for my Zoes to immediately fucking die and not shoot 220 points worth of shit. I just want points efficiency around here. That's all I'm saying. Because you still have to play the game in a who shoots first, right? Who gets to drop on who's first, and then trade, and then, yada yada yada. But the think tank cost 305 points without enhancements. That's a lot for shit that still has a 5-inch move attached to it. And if you roll 4s, you often just lose your fucking model, because there are only 3 wounds, and damage 3 just means, uh-oh, SpaghettiOs, there goes my noodles. I want the Zoes to be cheaper. I don't know if we need to go back to 70, but at this point, it might not be the worst thing. If we can see them pop up as many times in Space Marine 2 and go give people some troubles, maybe dropping them to like 80 or 90 wouldn't be the worst thing. So that way I see these on the table more often instead of just needing to bring triple exocrine or double exocrine or whatever it is for my shooting, and then that's where the sentence stops. Because if you look at our list, realistically, right, they also got replaced kind of by Tyranids because for 10 points less, I get consistent tank busting. And while the exocrine, and that's why there's always also B and Z, are good to end on, I understand the point of, well, you didn't say what should go up in that case. It's like, do they need to go up? Because they are relevant points to everybody else's shit and everybody else's army for what you get. Oh, but my Land Raider's 230 points. Yeah, it has 17 other guns and can transport people and shit. Like, what are we talking about here? Um, so for my Zoanthropes to be 200 points to still hit on threes and not survive shit isn't very great. Like, I would like to have a reason to take just three of them somewhere without necessarily attaching a Neuro Tyrant to make it feel better, right? Like the 6-up Invuln is beneficial in the list that you keep trying to kill. Unending Swarm and Swarm Horde list keep getting hit every which way. So their usefulness there is gone, per se, because those lists are not in favor. And then the other infantry spamming lists, such as Vanguard Onslaught, again, is not cost effective. So when you take two things that aren't cost effective and then add a third thing that isn't cost effective to make it work a little bit better, we're still not at cost efficiency. Right? Like if I bring Zoes to protect my Tyranid warriors, I have spent a lot for a little. Like if I just throw 100, right? My Venom Thropes are 70. They give stealth, and I've talked about throwing Venom Thropes into those infantry type of spam lists. We've seen it with Unending Swarm. But for what it is, I just have better options, and I would like to have side grade option instead of just straight up better. It isn't that the Exocrine is just so ridiculous for its one gun that is D6 plus 3, right? It's that everything else is so ass, unfortunately. Like a vast majority of it is not justifiable for the points. What they kill and what kills them just is whatever. And you go, oh, we want to squash the bugs, but aren't they supposed to be like a major threat in the scene? I'm looking at my warriors, the melee warriors. Let's go with that. 75 points for 3, right? Which is cheaper than a squad of knobs. Knobs get 5 models for that point, right? What are we looking at the cost per model? Then the knobs attached to a war boss, and then all of a sudden they're -1 to wound. I got sustained hits, right? That's cool. But they can also go into a truck to get to their designation before they WA. I might be able to put them in a Tyrannocyte, but I can't have a full squad of Tyranid warriors and their leader in a Tyrannocyte because that caps out. So maybe I can bring 6 warriors, melee warriors, in Invasion Fleet. That way I don't necessarily need the Winged Tyranid Prime. But then I've spent 255 points to kill what? That's not 255 points equivalency. They do not survive to the next fight. So if our whole thing is like being expendable, quote unquote, and then recycling and yada yada yada, I would like our expendable shit to be expendable. We've done a good job on the battle line for the most part. I will say, like I said, Gargoyles, I would like for them to go down a little bit, but I can understand why they don't. And again, to more credit, if anybody's still at this point of the video, and you're wondering why I am asking for, oh, but I love the Gene Stealers, I love the Melee Warriors to go down. Then you have the other options of shit like the Von Ryan's Leapers and the Barbgons that you're not taking that are cheaper than those things that will kill the things you're aiming for. The Von Ryan's Leapers are Vanguard invaders. They can advance and charge in Vanguard Onslaught and probably kill whatever you wanted the Gene Stealers to kill. And they have fights first, so if they end up having to spend another turn in combat, they fight first. The Barbgants are cheaper than Termagants, but the Termagants have access to other things like being regenerated. They have the option to other things. They have access to a dedicated unit that will regen them and give them lethal hits. Barbgants don't have that, and that's fine. But outside of those exceptions, all the other infantry in here just is too fucking much. I would have thrown in the Harpy and the Hive Crone, but I see that GW doesn't want to take those points down. They obviously don't want to touch aircraft this edition, so that's why I didn't really throw that in here. But you know I love the Harpy, and I would like to see the Hive Crone more often as well. But that's all of that. And did I actually skip? I did. I accidentally skipped the Screamer Killer. So, bonus, Screamer Killer, 145 points is too damn much. It's T9, 2 up save, 10 wounds, 145 points. I know we argue that I could take my horror specs for 125, which I still agree with, but people don't take the horror specs. So make this Screamer Killer, make it again a side grade to the Carnifexes. Make it 115 point like you have them right now. I would also like to see the Screamer Killer attach to Old One Eye. Give that a side grade. Give me reroll ones, or reroll hits, excuse me, on the thing that needs a hit. I would like to maybe run 2 Screamer Killers attached to Old One Eye at that point. Then I don't have to worry about then I don't get the Blood Surge, but I have a side grade option that's actually kind of viable. So, say all that to say that there's a lot on here that needs help, right? Other inclusions that I didn't include, I just give up hope on. Spore Assist, Harpy, Hive Crow, and I know you're not going to touch them. But yeah, that's all of mine. I think. Pretty sure I got all of them this time. But yeah, if you like the video, like it. Got a comment for me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.